This is the Ryan Morik Show.
Hello, fans of all ages. It's been a long 2 weeks, but I'm back from my vacation and moved into Ramapo College. Welcome back to the Ryan Morik podcast, hosted by yours truly. A lot has gone on in the past 2 weeks, but we are going to start off with the New York Yankees, who are coming off back-to-back series losses, one against Detroit and one against Toronto. You would think that after the Yankees got 9 consecutive hits off of David Price, there would be a sign of life, a sign of, okay, we can get into the postseason. But you have games like Friday and Sunday where their bats, once again, don't come alive. They're frozen. They had a little bit of a scare when Ellsbury sprained his ankle, but he looked pretty good yesterday with that double. He ran out of the box pretty hard, and he reached second base on a bloop hit. Pretty impressive for a guy with a sprained ankle. And then you have Brett Gardner, a single away from going for the cycle. But there's too much of one person trying to push this team into the postseason. It's a team effort. Everyone's got to hit. You can't have Beltran 1 week, McCann 1 week, Gardner the other week, Ellsbury the next 2 weeks. It's got to be everyone all at once, hitting well, having good at-bats, being patient. That's how you win baseball games. The Yankees are not winning baseball games with the way they're playing. And their record shows it, their stats show it, and I think that's obvious to any baseball fan. Right now, you look at the standings and no, they're not out of it. But they got a long way to go. Today's September 1st. The season ends September 28th. And yesterday, they lost an absolute heartbreaker. Up 3-0, give up back-to-back solo home runs, and then first batter of the next inning, a solo home run. That's 3 out of 4 guys hitting a home run. That ties up the game. And then Kawasaki with the RBI single. That was probably the most painful loss of this season. But you can remember, the Yankees are 9 games back at Detroit with 8 left to play against them. Now, are they going to win all 8? Probably not. But if you win 5 or 6 of them, they're still right back in it. And they're 3.5 out of the wild card. The only bad thing is everyone that they're ahead of in the wild card, I don't think they're on the remaining schedule. I know they don't play Detroit anymore. I'm checking right now. Boston this week, Kansas City this week, Tampa Bay this week, all at home. That's a big 9-game series. They have to win 6 of those games. And then you have a 4-game set of Baltimore, where Tanaka you think can come back. And then you're on the road against Tampa, home against Toronto, home against Baltimore, finishing the season up at Boston. So you figure you're going to win the series against Boston. Let's hope. You're going to win the series against Boston. You hope to win 1 or 2 against Kansas City. You hope to win 2 against Tampa Bay. 2 games a series. That's 16 wins to end the year. That's not an impossible goal. 16 wins in roughly, what would that be, 27 games? They're 70 and 65. 16 and 11? Possible. Definitely possible. Don't count them out just yet. Because you have to remember, they have a lot of games against AL East opponents. 8 of them against Baltimore, You have some games against Kansas City. They're not out of it yet. And Seattle has a big series against Oakland coming up. Think about it. They're not out of it yet. If Seattle gets swept by Oakland and the Yankees sweep the Red Sox, depending on what Detroit does, this is a whole new wild card race. And the Yankees might jump ahead. But the thing with this team, though, they won 5 in a row about a week ago. They get to this insane hot streak, and then they can't make that big push. A, because the teams that they need to lose are winning, and B, because after their hot streak, they get cold. They win 5 in a row, and then they lose 7 of 9, 6 of 9. They're a very streaky team, and that winds up evening out. If you want to make the postseason, you can't be streaky like that. You have to be streaky, but on the winning side only. They need a miracle run like Kansas City or Washington, winning 12 of 13, winning 20 of 24. Now, that's probably not going to happen. But you win 6 of 7, especially in this upcoming homestand. If you win 6 or 7 of these games at home, they're in a pretty big spot. And they're definitely not out of it. Their season is going to come down to the wire. And I think that final series against Baltimore at home is going to determine whether they're in for the division, whether they're in for the wild card, or whether they're in general. That division is going to prove a lot. Because honestly, that series is either going to be a sweep for the Orioles, a sweep for the Yankees, or a split. I don't see that series going 2-2. Because the fans are going to be wild. Because that's Derek Jeter's last series at home. All you can do is hope. And all the Yankees can do is leave Jacoby Ellsbury in the leadoff spot. Are you kidding me? Before he sprained his ankle, he was 20 for 44. 20 of his last 44. That's a .455 average. And he raised his overall average to 285, 286. And including yesterday's double, that's 21 for 45. Which is a .467 average. Jacoby Ellsbury is definitely more comfortable in the leadoff spot, you can tell. Let's face it, this guy's not a 3-hitter. A 3-hitter is a guy with a high average and a guy with a high number of home runs. If Beltran and McCann were batting 280, 290, you easily put them at the 3-hole. You know what's a problem? When Martin Prado is your number 3-hitter. I was talking to someone the other day who said Brett Garner should be in the 3-hole because he has the second most home runs on the team. And while I get what he was saying, the fact that that's even a thought, that just shows how horrific this season has been. And for this season to be so horrific and to be only 3.5 games out of a postseason berth, you can't deny the fact that this team does not give up. They fight. They will fight. They're going to fight for Derek Jeter, and Joe Girardi is a fighter also. Joe Girardi has put his team on his back every year since he's gotten here. This might be the 3rd year where Joe Girardi misses the postseason in his stint with the Yankees. And if you watch his reactions in the dugout, or whenever there's a bad call, he's always there. He will flip out on umpires to protect his players because he wants to win. I mean, granted, that guy won a lot when he was a player in New York. But I give my props to him for keeping this team in it. And another funny thing is, every Yankee fan is so excited for Tanaka to be back. Probably would have won Rookie of the Year if he didn't get hurt, either him or Jose Abreu, who was definitely in the Cy Young talks. But then he goes down with the partially torn UCL. And people are excited to have him back. I know I'm excited to potentially have him back at season's end. But the thing is, having Tanaka back, it doesn't help the offense. You would think that with all of the injuries that happened to this year's team, I mean, look at in June when they had their struggles, everyone was saying they're hurt, they're hurt, they're hurt. Last year, that was a good excuse. This year, not so much. Their offensive guys weren't hurt. Their pitching staff was. The Yankees starters, as of right now, their combined ERA is one of the best in the league. Definitely under 3.6, 3.7, I would think. Because McCarthy has, entering today, he was a 2.47 in his stint with the Yankees. Shane Green has been incredible. Hiroki Kuroda is Kuroda. Pineda's awesome. To think that 80% of their starting pitching went down, including CC Sabathia and Masahiro Tanaka and Michael Pineda, you would think that this season would have been over a long time ago, and it wasn't because of the pitching. The offense needs to pick up this team. Once they get that big push, that big 6 of 7, and then like 6-game win streak, 1 loss, and then another win streak, and then 1 loss. They need to win 12 of 14, something huge like that. Once they get that big push, that fire. And speaking of fire, when you watch Brian McCann's walk-off home run, look at the emotion. That's what the Yankees need. The entire team needs that. Because if you don't have that kind of emotion, you're not going to win. That emotion brings so much chemistry, and that shows that you don't want to lose and you know what you're playing for. So when the Yankees get that emotion and that passion, they will be dangerous. But it might be too little too late. Speaking of too little too late, the Cleveland Browns have a Week 1 quarterback. And his name is not Johnny Manziel. Brian Hoyer will start Week 1, and I think this is a good move. Now, I'm not a guy who sits down and watches tape. I'm not like Ron Jaworski, who's going to sit down and watch 152 hours of film footage of Johnny Manziel. But from what I've watched, Manziel was very sporadic. This preseason, he played like he lived. He took too many risks. He didn't seem too comfortable. And he did make some good plays. But your quarterback can't be the guy who is average, slightly above average, and then makes a couple good plays that will make a highlight reel. I'd rather a guy with constant success than a guy who's going to make some awful plays, but then that one big play that you'll see on SportsCenter. And I think that's who Johnny Manziel is. I think Brian Hoyer knows the Browns a lot more. I don't think Johnny Manziel has grasped the idea that he's in the National Football League. I think he's still adjusting. I think Brian Hoyer is more NFL ready, obviously, because he is in the NFL. I do think Johnny Manziel will adjust fairly quickly. I think after this year, he's going to be a pretty good NFL quarterback. I don't think he's going to be a bust, but I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. I think he's going to be above average, I guess. And honestly, he might start for this Cleveland team by Week 4, Week 5. Because if Brian Hoyer does not play well, the fans are going to want Johnny. They're going to be chanting his name all around Cleveland. His jersey is going to show up in the dog pound, and the fans are going to want him, and they're going to cheer for him. They're going to kick Brian Hoyer right out of the stadium. Let's take a look at Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow hasn't played in the NFL in I don't know how many years. The guy was not a good quarterback, but he was a big name on a big team, and the fans wanted him. I think when a fan wants someone to play that badly, that gives the player a certain drive, that gives the rest of the team a certain drive to win. Now, I'm not saying just because the fans want Johnny Manziel to be the starter, he's going to lead them to the playoffs. Whether Manziel or Hoyer is the quarterback, the Browns are going 5-11, 6-10 this year. If Josh Gordon were in, maybe 7-9. But he's not. So this team is 5-11, 6-10, no matter who the quarterback is. I don't think the Browns are going to go in a 2-quarterback scenario. That's just not going to work. All I know is that Johnny Manziel needs to accept his role, know what he's doing, be careful, don't screw up. He just needs to act like the backup. He needs to show that he can play while also knowing his role. I know that's a little hard for Johnny because he's a big star, but he has to accept it. And I think the quicker he accepts it, the more mature he will be, believe it or not. I feel like more playing time isn't the solution for him to be a better quarterback. Guys are going to mentor him. He's going to watch Brian Hoyer. He's going to watch what he should do rather than what he did do at Texas A&M. And then I think eventually, one day, he'll be the starting quarterback of the Browns or maybe even another team. And he can be successful, but he just has to know his role. More quarterback battles are over, and Geno Smith will start week 1 for the New York Jets. I said it before. I'll say it again. I still think Michael Vick is a better quarterback, but Geno Smith was awesome in the preseason. He played very well. He played like a 5-year vet. I think the Jets had their mind set on Geno ever since they drafted him. And even when they signed Vick, I think they still said to themselves, Michael Vick is our backup, Geno is our guy. Unless if Michael Vick completely blew him out of the water, that was what they were saying to themselves. Geno has so much potential. He's a big guy and he moves a lot, which is very good. And I think he's durable too. I don't think he's a very fragile player like Vick. And I think that's another reason why the Jets have had their mindset on Geno. Michael Vick can't play a full season without getting hurt. And if Geno does get hurt, they have a great backup in Michael Vick. Some teams would kill to have Michael Vick as their starter. And he's a Jets backup. I think the Jets can finish 9-7, 10-6 this year. I don't think they'll make the playoffs only because 6 teams can make it. But I think they can finish with a great record. Their schedule starts off very hard, but it gets better. And they can win a lot. And I think Geno and or Vic can bring them to 10 wins. Again, I think Michael Vick is a little better, but Geno shut me up. He played very well. And I hope he does continue to succeed because I feel like he has the potential to be a really good quarterback. I like to see success. I'm not someone who looks for someone and hates him because he's good, unless your name is Tom Brady. I just don't like the Patriots. I don't like Tom Brady, but I'm not going to deny that they're something else. But anyway, Geno has great potential. And I really hope we see him reach his full potential this year. And even as a Giant fan, I really want him to do well. I hope he keeps proving me wrong. I hope he keeps proving everyone else wrong. So we'll see how that goes. One more QB battle. The Jaguars, no matter who their quarterback is, they're probably only going to win 3 or 4 games. But Chad Henne over Blake Bortles? Blake Bortles, in my opinion, was the best QB in the draft. I think he's going to have the best career. Only if he stays with the Jaguars and then Johnny Manziel or Bridgewater or Garoppolo, they go on awesome teams. But I think Blake Bortles definitely has the best skill. I think he's more NFL rated than Chad Henne is. And Chad Henne graduated, 3-4 years ago? And he went to Michigan. Chad Henne was a great college quarterback. But other than that, no. He's not a good NFL quarterback at all. I'm very surprised that the Jaguars chose with him. But they own an NFL team. I don't. I'm sure they know a lot more about football than I do. So best of luck to them. And best of luck to Blake Bortles in his backup role. I'm sure that'll change soon. Speaking of college football, the season is underway. But Josh Shaw will not be a part of it. Because he's an idiot, to say the least. In case you haven't heard the story, Josh Shaw, fifth-year senior from USC, one of their senior captains, cornerback, said that he was saving his drowning 7-year-old nephew, jumped off of a balcony, sprained his ankles in the process, saved his nephew, and he would be out indefinitely. Turns out that was a lie. And I've heard two stories. One, he was breaking into a guy's house, jumped off of a third-story balcony and sprained his ankles. And I've heard that he was at a frat party at school, jumped off a balcony and sprained his ankles there. Whatever the case may be, whatever the story is, whatever actually happened, who would lie about something like that? Don't you realize that college sports and institutions find out almost anything? Now, this guy, not only is he suspended, he has a reputation now. Think of guys who have gotten in trouble, like Mike Vick, Josh Gordon, Ray Rice, all those guys. They're no longer football players first. They're threats to America first, and then football players. And now Josh Shaw is in that category, all because he lied. Is it that hard to originally say, hey, I screwed up, I did something bad, and some bad came out of it? It would have been better if he just told the truth right away. Now that he lied and then told the truth about what really happened, that makes the whole situation even worse. I'm sure his friends and family are not too happy with him at all. You can't use a family member to tell a lie about sports and how you hurt yourself. You don't throw family members under the bus like that, especially when they're 7 years old. And who knows if this kid is even real anyway. If he's not real, then he's not really throwing anyone under the bus. But if he is, what a moron. Speaking of idiots named Josh Gordon will not play for the Cleveland Browns, like I said before, this year. Compare all you want about him and Ray Rice and Brandon Merriweather and all these guys that go down for steroids and domestic violence and criminal acts. You have to remember that this is not Josh Gordon's first time getting in trouble for this. Don't complain about how Josh Gordon's suspension isn't fair. He's gotten in trouble for this before. If you're going to compare Ray Rice and Josh Gordon, you can't say that Josh Gordon's punishment is unfair. You have to say that Ray Rice's punishment is unfair. You can't be told 3 times to go against the drug policy. Honestly, he doesn't deserve to play this year. I think it's a fair punishment, to be completely honest with you. The punishments that aren't fair are Ray Rice and Brandon Merriweather. Let's hold off on Ray Rice for a minute, because everyone knows that situation. Brandon Merriweather is suspended 2 games for helmet-to-helmet hits. This is his 6th offense. Not only is he going to hurt the people he tries to hit, he's going to hurt himself one day. You look at guys like Wes Welker, who has been concussed 3 times in the last 10 months. You look at Junior Seau, who took his own life. You look at Tony Dorsett, who's got diagnosed with CTE. Guys are living in depression because of the concussions they suffered in their NFL career. And Brandon Merriweather is going to be a victim one day, and he's going to make a victim one day. When he got suspended last year, he said something along the lines of, "I guess I have to go for people's legs now." What a ridiculous comment. This league has been cracking down on concussions and spinal injuries and neck injuries for so long. And you have this guy in the league. This is the kind of guy who you need to kick out of the league. I'm sorry. 6 offenses, 2 games, and he's still going to do it. I'm sorry, you don't belong in the league. You don't. If you're going to intentionally hurt someone for a long-term period of time, get out. I understand tackling hard and driving them to the ground. But when you lead with your head like that and risk not only yours but someone else's life, you don't belong in the league. It's because of guys like that one day someone is going to die on the field. Someone's life is going to be taken in the middle of a football game within, I'd say, the next 30, 40 years. It will happen in my lifetime. We've seen career enders. We've seen paralysis. I'm telling you, it's going to happen because of guys like this. These are the guys that have to get out of the league. And don't be so ignorant about it either. Don't be so ignorant. If you screw up, just open it up and admit it. Don't say that you're going to start going for ACLs. Today's generation, when they have kids, they're scarred for life when it comes to their kids playing football. There are Hall of Fame football players that have been quoted to say that they're not letting their kids play football. They're Hall of Famers. They're enshrined in Canton, Ohio. And they won't let their kids play football. And if they had their kids way back when, knowing what they know now, they wouldn't let them play football. And they would want to play football themselves because of what they know now. And you have guys like that in this league. Come on, Commissioner. Now to the story that everyone knows and loves. Ray Rice suspended 2 games. But now Goodell says, hold on, wait a minute. I screwed up. So now everyone else after this, their first time committing domestic violence, they're going to get a 6-game suspension. Second time, they're going to be banned for life. One of those penalties is not fair. While domestic violence has no place in our society, in our country, in the NFL, let alone, you can't go from 6 games to life. 6 games is 6 weeks. Obviously, 6, 7 weeks. Lifetime for the second offense? Either the first punishment is too lenient or the second punishment is too harsh. You got to make it a year, then life. Or 6 games, 16 games, life. You got to have some sort of balance. Take a look at baseball. I'm not sure what the punishments are now, but when the biogenesis thing happened last year, it was 50 games first offense, 100 games second offense, lifetime third. That's pretty balanced. This isn't balanced. Now, props to the commissioner for admitting he screwed up and trying to stop domestic violence in the NFL. But this is too big of a gap. And honestly, it's too little too late. Ray Rice should just be suspended the 6 games, to be honest. I just hope that this league, along with every other league, starts to see role models instead of criminals. because every league, their primary goal is to attract the youth. Because 30 and 40-year-olds are not going to be the ones playing professionally in 10, 20 years. It's kids my age and younger that are going to be playing in 10, 20 years from now. These guys want to attract the youth. That's another reason why steroids is so big in sports. It's because we don't want to see kids and young athletes portray these guys who are cheating. I know I don't want my son wearing any Ray Rice jersey. My 10-year-old cousin wears one. I have a tough time wearing my Lawrence Taylor jersey around because of what he did. I know when my kids, one day, when they start playing sports, I don't want them to watch these guys. I want them to watch the guys who put their team first and the ones who care about the sport and the ones who don't screw up. Because those are the ones that the youth needs to look up to, not the ones who keep breaking the rules and getting suspended. Once again, props to Goodell for admitting he screwed up, but it's too little too late. These guys and these crimes have no place in the NFL, the MLB, NHL, NBA, society, America. So let's hope that our youth can look up to the right people. All right, well, that about does it for me and the 4th episode of the Ryan Morik podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Ramapo play-by-play begins September 13th for me. My radio show up at the school will be starting soon. And of course, I will continue to do this podcast as much as I possibly can. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, it's not goodbye. Let's see you later. Take care, everyone.